Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is my February 2023 page 112 tag. The page 112 tag was brought to BookTube by Sean at Sean the Bookmaniac. He based it off of a French literary prize wherein they comprised a long list of novels, I believe, solely by reading page 112 of the books in contention, which in novels is somewhere around the middle, and it's supposed to be past the part where everything is super polished for an editor. It's where you get to the nitty-gritty of the real writing. And in the page 112 tag, you don't have the context of the beginning part of the story, so you can only judge by the quality of the writing on that one page. So I've been using this tag for a couple of years to slowly whittle down my ever-growing physical TBR shelves. And I will link to my playlist of said videos down below. I have this handy-dandy Books and Cats mug. It is filled with slips of paper of acquisitions that I got from 2022 or before. I pick out 3 at random from this mug, and then I show you the books. I read the pages to myself first, and then I read them to you and share my thoughts, and then pick the best page 112 to add to my month's TBR, or at least that's the intent of this game. Sometimes I have other, considerations, like, the BookTube prize just started. That was my last video, was about what I'm reading for the octafinals. So sometimes, a smaller book might, be more helpful, but this year I might actually be reading my shorter BookTube prize books in February, because I also have a writing goal at the end of the month that I want to meet. So maybe I can justify, a bigger book this month for the page 112 tag, if, the page is good. We shall see. So yeah, without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pick my 3 books. I'm so excited. I always enjoy this tag. What are you going to get? All right, here's number 1. Oh, this is What America Looks Like, edited by Caroline Bach. It seems like, much like last month, I'm seeming to get my newer titles. This was a 2022 acquisition. It's right over there in the corner, in fact. I got it at a local DC Literary Book Fest. And speaking of which, this really matters to no one other than myself, but this was my page 112 book for last month, and I said I got it at the Gaithersburg Book Festival, wherein in fact I got it a little earlier that month at this other local DC Book Festival, or actually technically I got it at Capitol Hill Books, which is a used bookstore in the neighborhood of that local book festival. So I'll link to them down below. But anyway, going back to the book I'm playing with this month, this is a anthology of short stories written by local authors, DC, Maryland, and Virginia authors. So, and it's put out by a local press, which I will link down to below. And yes, I'm very excited to give it a go. Okay, next I will go for book number 2. Trying to see if I can go to different places in the mug. I'd like to get a variety, especially some older books and some newer books, or certainly novels. It's likely I'll get a novel. Most of my TBR, physical TBR's novels. This is 1, right? Not 2, but 1? This is 1. Okay. And this is Miss Burma by Charmaine Craig, which I believe is also a recent acquisition. I got this at one of my jaunts last year, I'm pretty sure, at my Friends of the Library used bookstore, which I'll also link down below. And so this is a novel, as I guess I was hoping for, literary fiction that was popular a few years ago, and then I went ahead and I found it on the shelves at the bookstore, and so now I have it, so exciting times. And finally, for book number 3, here's where I'll hope for, an older title to add to these 2022 titles. But I guess if I get a 2022, sooner or later I'll run out of those, and later in the year I'll at least be on to older stuff. But it would be nice to have a little diversity. So let's see where this one will lead me. Ah, The Lightness of Water. Let me try that again. The Lightness of the Water by Rhonda Browning White, which is another 2022 release, and it's short stories, which technically is rare in my mug, but not in this particular TBR. And I got this from a small press, so I will link the small press down below as well. Press 53, I believe it is. These, I believe, are short stories that take place in Appalachia. I was, in fact, just looking at this collection just recently, so I guess it was fate or something like that, that now I will be giving it a go. Okay, you've seen me grab these 3 books. Now I'm going to go off and read them and then come back to share my thoughts with you. So stay tuned. Okay, I'm back, and woo, this month is a bit of a doozy. Let's get into it. Starting with book number 1, This Is What America Looks Like, edited by Caroline Bach. And the story I'm reading from, which is more or less around the middle, is called Wink by Mohini Malhotra. Mom, the lady said to add in a dessert. I see only 4 boxes of cake mix. Use them. We'll fill the rest with cranberry jelly, yams, applesauce, lots left over from the holidays. Note to self, next time you buy to donate, buy a lot of the same stuff, easier on the volunteers to make decisions, and do not buy canned green beans. Forget it. They expired in 2015. Good you checked. Look at this artisanal pasta. I've seen it at Whole Foods for 12 bucks. Wow, who would donate that? Oops, expired. Quinoa bags expired. Barbecue sauces expired. Here are rice noodles in plastic bags of flattened, dried items. What are they? Great, only written in Chinese or Korean or whatever. Forget that. Here's a restaurant-sized jar of Spanish olives, several jars of marinated sun-dried tomatoes, grilled artichokes, Jamaican jerk chicken recipe rub. I look up and the little girl is twirling around the middle of the room, her arms stretched out, her pink coat fanning out around her. Mom, when do we eat? I'm starving. It's only 11. When we're done here. Want to go to our usual place in Bethesda? I'm hungry now. I'm going to eat this kind bar. There's only one anyway. He's about to unwrap it and I shout, Put that down! That could be breakfast for a child. Hey, you can be hungry for an hour. Imagine how many kids go hungry for much longer. Sean throws it back on the shelf, grabs 2 finished meal bags and marches them to the pickup counter. The little girl swallowed by the big pink coat has stopped twirling and is staring at us. Her 2 braids are flying out of her winter hat. Her wide dark eyes peek from under her fox fur lining. I slide the kind bar into the meal bag, slowly lift up the only bag of chocolate chips and solo large plastic bottle of apple juice, lower them into the bag, and walk it to the counter. I point to it and wink at her. She hides a smile inside her jacket. Now, on to toiletries, I say to Sean, observing the girl out of the corner of my eye. She's hopping and skipping toward the counter. My son packs toiletries to a beat only he can hear. We put together over 120 toiletry bags in an hour. I am finishing up my last one, rummaging in the shampoo bin, and I see a small bottle, Oribe Gold Lust Repair and Restore. Can it be? My hairdresser was just talking about it when I went in for my color touch-up last week. I had Googled it. $154 for a bottle. This was a 2-ounce sample, the only one amidst many shampoos. Some poor woman or man wouldn't know its worth. Okay, so I actually liked it a little better the second time I read it. I didn't like it as much the first time, and I think maybe it speaks to the complications of short stories, reading them for the page 112 tag. I mean, this is technically the middle of a short story, but it's a very short story. It's only like 3 pages, and I don't know, maybe I would have gotten the rhythm more from the first page or something, but mostly I didn't like all of the, dialogue heaviness, and I think there was some incorrect grammar in here too that threw me off. And it's just really hard to get invested. I think it seems to be a scene that takes place in some sort of homeless shelter where a woman is berating her son for not caring enough, basically. And of course, at the end, there's the irony that she finds something like in the grab bags that she wants, even though it's supposed to be for, people in need. And here she won't even let her son, who's hungry, have a kind bar. So I don't know. I guess, the little girl was an interesting touch, I suppose. But, it just, it was jarring, like all of the, the dialogue, and I really couldn't get a sense of the voices. And then finally we get into a little narrative, and it was a little easier. But yeah, it was a rough one, I think. Book number 2 is Miss Burma by Charmaine Craig. And I'll start on a little bit on page 111 to get a full sentence. But Benny couldn't yet give up on the British, and Sawley soon went along with his plan to send a delegation of Karens to London in order to plead the Karen case. A goodwill mission, that's what we'll call it. A goodwill mission to London, during which you'll sit shoulder to shoulder with Altie's men. In London, Sawley did what he could to play into British sympathies, even loosening up to the extent that he was able to share a few inebriated hours in entertaining talk about his favorite British authors and actresses with the likes of the Labour Party's Lord Pethick Lawrence at the luminous Claridge's Hotel. But Altie's buttoned-up ministers, who listened politely enough to his pained words of thanks for how the British had delivered them from the Japanese, and to his too emotional reminder of how the long loyal Karens needed an autonomous state that he hoped might exist within the British Commonwealth, even if Burma itself gained independence from it, ultimately distanced themselves from their predecessors' protectorship of the Karens. "We're terribly grateful for what you have done," one particularly sympathetic minister said as he escorted Sawley to the door. "Without you, Aung San might never have come around. But I can't imagine how our officers thought they had the right to promise you statehood in exchange for your service. They overstepped. Yes, they overstepped. Very unfortunate." In the end, they were advised to throw their lot in with the Burmans. That betrayal seemed only to redouble the tenuous bond being forged between Benny and Sawley again, just as Louisa, coming upon the rifles in Benny's study, soon drew them together in their guilt. Together they smarted from the sting, in January 1947, of Aung San being invited to Buckingham Palace. Even Churchill is in disbelief, Benny noted, reading a dispatch from one of his London contacts, saying, "Listen, I certainly did not expect to see you Aung San, whose hands were dyed with British blood and loyal Burmese blood," meaning Karen and Kachin and Chin blood, marching up the steps of Buckingham Palace as the plenipotentiary of the Burmese government. Together they chafed at Aung San's victorious return to Burma and his hubristic assertion that he alone had determined the country's fate. And it goes on from there. There's a lot of, in this, asides in parentheses and run-on sentences and just lots of juxtaposed ideas in sentence by sentence, which made this really difficult to follow. So I feel like I almost have to eat my hat from the last page that I read, which was from a short story, and I'm like, well, maybe this just doesn't work for the style of short stories, but it can be the same in novels, where I guess the most kind reading of this would be that it's trying to be experimental on purpose, but I feel like it's just not working. There's just too much information laid into sentence by sentence at a time. It's just too overwhelming for me. I mean, I feel like generally speaking, I'm intrigued by the subject. I know that, this is taking place in Burma. It's about different ethnic groups. It's about trying to gain independence or, a sense of self and statehood at the ends of colonialism, like the end of the British Empire in the 1940s, and, how Britain is digging its heels in. I mean, this is interesting stuff. I just feel the execution isn't hugely well done on this page. I do know I'll be getting to this novel sooner or later. It is on my Goodreads TBR. It also, I'm pretty sure I heard about it through the Jewish Book Council site, because it is about a mixed Burmese Jewish family. The Jewish members came from Britain during the war, I believe, or sometime, maybe earlier. Not that you can tell that from the page, but yeah, I'm not too impressed with the page, but I know I'll be getting to this sooner or later. And finally, we have book number 3, The Lightness of Water and Other Stories by Rhonda Browning White. And this is also more or less in the middle of a short story called Heritage. Bo tries to stifle a snicker but fails. He bursts into laughter, and after an instant of feeling offended, I join him. Tears puddle in his eyes, and soon we're both lost in a fit of giggles. "To the DAR!" Bo shouts, holding his glass toward the ceiling. We both crack up again, and soon my eyes are tearing. "To revolution!" I say. We laugh until I feel lighthearted and breathless, and in the process of trying to compose myself, I spill droplets of wine on the front of my dress. "Oh!" I touch the spot with my fingers, and Bo quickly pulls out his handkerchief and dabs at the wetness. I start to take the handkerchief from him, and when I look up, Bo's mouth is nearly touching mine. I gasp before he kisses me. When his mouth leaves mine, I find myself leaning against him, and he's supported by the edge of his desk. I'm standing between his legs. "No!" I put my hand to my mouth. I turn, but Bo grabs me by the shoulders, holds me steady. "Careful," he says, and I realize I've almost fallen. I can't, we shouldn't do..." "Shh." Bo's smile is both sad and tender when he presses a finger to my lips, and he caresses my cheek with the back of his hand. "I didn't mean to upset you, Claire. Please accept my apologies." His face tilts to one side, and in the golden light, his eyes are kind and understanding, and he's again that handsome football star from high school, the boy who all girls wanted. I haven't felt this kind of thrill in a long time," he says. "Is it really so wrong to give in to a brief moment of happiness, one small moment in time?" I feel sorry for him, this man who has everything. I turn away from his eyes, and the look in them that makes me want to tell him I'm sorry. The look that makes me want to comfort him, hold him. Okay, and finally I am eating my hat again and turning around to the idea that indeed a short story can have a very compelling page 112. I mean, I'm just struck by the fact that this is very straightforward language, and it is compelling. It tells a tale. I feel like I understand a bit of what's happening, and I'm intrigued, and it's not, jam-packed full of too many words, or, a weird juxtaposition of, too much dialogue, rambling dialogue, or then too much exposition, or whatever. I really like this. There's an intriguing, there's just a nice cadence to it, with this moment between this man and this woman, I'll call them, Bo and Claire, where, they start out laughing about something, and then, they have that pause where there seems to be a little bit of attraction and a kiss, but it also seems like, maybe he's taking a few liberties. I mean, I feel like, I don't know if other women might agree with me, that there's some hints in here of somebody who's taking advantage and is definitely trying to spin things. He is the stereotypical, like, good guy or, popular guy or something like that. And even he is kind of saying, is it so wrong to steal a moment? So obviously something about this kiss in some way or another is a little illicit. There's just a lot. We have this straightforward language that, like, introduces characters, and there's stuff about the lighting and, just the cadence, and just so much in this page that feels like it was so easy to read, but it contains so much in it. So yes, I'm just so excited because I feel like the other two books were kind of duds this month. So I'm happy that one of the books, at least, I feel like, is good enough, or more than good enough, I hope, to be on this month's TBR. And what do you know, it just happens to be the shortest one on the list as well. So that about covers it for me now. You can find links to all three of these books, their Goodreads pages, listed down below in case you'd like some more information. And finally, the major thing I do in these outro videos for the page 112 tag is I like to shout out booktubers who are participating in TBR games or readathons, because I want to feel like, we're part of the same club, and also just share the love. And so, since it's February and it's Valentine's Day, I went searching for some lovey-dovey sort of stuff. And I found through Michelle at Michelle's Library, she is hosting what she's calling Rom-Com-a-thon, which has a good ring to it, I think. And it's all about reading romantic comedies, if you'd like. She has this bingo board of prompts, or if you'd rather, she has a bingo board of self-care prompts. So it's the other side of love, I think, and a lot of fun. So I'll link that down below. In fact, I have a rom-com myself on my physical shelves. It's not my usual genre, but I think I have at least one rom-com that I could be pulling out of that mug. So we'll see what happens in later months. Anyway, I'll be back on this channel in a few days to do my author's answer video, another monthly tag video I take part in, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.